the main objection that people have right now is they don't believe AI can produce world-class images. They don't believe that it can outproduce what their designer can do, and it absolutely can. But that number one objection was, what do they look like? Because if they look like crap, then I'm not going to use it. So it makes sense. And so that's what we started to lead with. It's still not systemized. It's still not automated. It's still not an all-in-one solution that brings you fresh new creative automatically with ready-to-deploy ads at the push of a button directly integrated with your Meta Ads Manager, all of your client accounts. That's what we provide, is that end-to-end solution. Boom. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Marketing Monday with Joel and Laurel. Super happy to have you on here today. We got some fun stuff that we're going to talk about here today. So Laurel and I were chatting, kind of planning on what our topic of conversation was going to be here today. And is it okay if we guys give you like some behind the scenes stuff of what I'm working on, what Laurel's working on, some real numbers and some in the trenches type of stuff? I always thought that it would be helpful for you guys to see, like, hey, even though we've got a lot of experience between the two of us, I think sometimes there's this misconception that like we never make mistakes, or like we know that we're going to be right 100% of the time. And sorry to burst your bubble if you place us that high on such a high pedestal, but we're just like you guys. Obviously we have experience, but we still go through testing. We still go through all sorts of trials and failures. And I'm happy to, show all my warts and explain to you that like this is just part of the process. So anyway, I'll share some stats of things that I'm working on, campaigns that I'm working on. We're going to talk about a very specific type of ad that seemingly always works. I'll also share some iterations of my offer and my funnel of what I've been testing with paid traffic. And yeah, we'll go from there. Laurel, what's up?
Yeah, no, that sounds like fun. And what I really love about this is people get to see two different styles come together and sharing ideas, because I think sometimes people get lost in, well, who should I listen to? Because this person says this and this person says this, and honestly, you should listen to pretty much everybody and nobody. And so
Yeah.
that's what I love about these jams, is like people get to see how two perspectives work so great together. And I think that's the hardest part about ads, is I think people think that there's only one way to do things when there's actually many ways. And that's why it's important to actually understand what Joel and I break down every single week is the principles behind why different techniques actually work.
Yeah. Yep. I love it. I love it. We're not perfect. We have
Far from it.
experience.
Far from it. Like, I have already failed like at least 8 times today.
Well, you wake up very early. You get your workday done at like the butt crack of dawn. And I think you're up like what, 5 a.m. your time? Is that
I
what you
am a
said?
I am a 5 a.m.er, and and it's not because I set my alarm. It's just like that's ever since I was a kid. That's my circadian rhythm.
Good for you. Well, I don't know if it's good for you. I mean, some people hate it, some people love it, whatever. That's not me. So to each their own. Okay. So what I want to talk about here today is one style of ad that just works all the time. When you get into the world of paid marketing and advertising, you start to figure out like, okay, cool. I really want to get paid ads to work because I really don't like the daily, hustle of creating content every single day, the whole 9 yards. And it's really just it's a grind, and you understand the power of what paid advertising can do for your business. Well, then you start to enter, all right, well, I need to come up with messaging. I need to come up with copy. I need to come up with images and creatives. I really built one of the core pillars of my brand and my teachings that really took off like wildfire was something called the power offer. Very simple framework. It's essentially an elevator pitch that you use as an ad, and it brings in, bottom of funnel leads. People are actively searching for what you want, and it gives you that starting point to validate like, okay, do we really have something here, or do I need to pivot my offer and my messaging? What I want to talk about today is maybe it's not, well, it is a power offer. I always have to be very careful because I teach one very specific messaging framework for the power offer, but in reality, it's just meant to target those bottom of funnel style leads. So it is a power offer. It is a bottom of funnel style piece of ad copy. And what I want to share with you is the stupid creative has just worked across. So what I'm trying to do right now is I'm testing an application funnel, book a call funnel for my advertising software, Inspired. And so I tested a bunch of different iterations. I tested some angles that were like, hey, come watch this free VSL or a free demo or whatever, and got a bunch of opt-ins, but something just wasn't connecting, wasn't getting a ton of applications. So I pivoted, and I don't know, I probably did one or two more iterations that are just that I'm blanking on right now. But I decided from a strategic standpoint, I said, I know ads agents. So I'm targeting meta ads agency owners, and I'm targeting people who are really stuck on the creative grind, meaning anytime that a client needs a refresh on creatives or they need to fix their campaign, what happens with a lot of meta ads agency owners and a lot of agency owners is like they get into drop everything mode. It's like, okay, cool. All hands on deck. We got to work on this campaign. Here's what I'm thinking. The owner will drive the strategy, send it to their designers, send it to their teams. Then there becomes this like back and forth of like, okay, I've got some concepts, iterating, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just this very long cycle that is not systemized at all, and it holds them back from being able to take on more clients. That's what we solve with Inspired. So I know that audience very, very well because I ran an ads agency for a decade. And so that's what we solve with Inspired. And I said, you know what? Based on some of the feedback that I've been getting on the sales calls that I was booking, one of the things that the major thing that agencies were interested in is they wanted to see what it looked like. Not even the system behind. They wanted to see what the creative looked like because in their mind, like, oh, well, you're using AI to generate these images, and it was just a sticking point for them. And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to change my offer. Instead of trying to educate them and nurture them of, why our system is so awesome, they're already in that hyper awareness state of probably trying a bunch of different AI tools. And so the real problem that they're in right now is they're duct taping like 5 AI tools together, and it's not really a system, a cohesive process that really optimizes anything. Sure, they might use one AI tool that generates some ad creatives, but then they still got to download that, put it into their brand folder, upload it to meta ads, throw some copy together, and it's just all discombobulated. So knowing that and getting that feedback on some of those early calls, I decided I'm going to switch my offer entirely. And so instead of just trying to get someone to book a call with no core promise of what's going to happen on that call, I changed my offer to now say, hey, here's what I've got. Here's what it's going to do for you. If you're tired of duct taping 5 AI tools together and nothing really works and it still takes you forever to publish a campaign, let's book a call, a 15-minute call. I'll assess if we can even help you. And if I can help you, then what I will do is I will demo this for 2 of your agency client accounts. So I'll show you exactly what it can look like, tailored specifically for your agency so you get a crystallized view of how this can really work. That has seemed to hit. That's hitting really, really well. So we're now getting applications for around 30 to 40 bucks after we exited like the testing phase. And we're getting appointments scheduled for, I don't know, 50 or 60 bucks. So any questions on that so far before I jump into kind of showing what these ads are and what really started to pop for me?
Yeah, I have actually a couple of questions, and this is just kind of my curious because like I have so many students who, put together VSL funnels, application funnels, and they struggle between the point of getting the opt-in and the actual view, like the views on the actual video. Can you kind of walk me through how did you come to the point that you knew it was the content within the video versus maybe I'm not getting the right amount of leads because we always hear, well, I'm getting low quality leads or I'm getting the wrong leads. Can you kind of just walk us through your process of how you came to the conclusion that it was the actual messaging in the video?
So to clarify, it wasn't technically the messaging in the video that was off, it was the entire angle. So we were getting a lot of opt-ins. So I don't know, I probably got 50 to 100 opt-ins and like very, very low call booking rate. I don't even know if I got one, to be honest. And so I was watching the engagement on the videos and I was getting a decent like completion rate. They just weren't taking that next step. So what that was indicating to me was that the offer I was making to them didn't hit. Even though they were interested and watching, there was still some sort of objection, like, I'm not going to book a call. They probably think it's a sales call, which it was, but it just didn't capture their attention. It didn't spark enough interest for why they should book a call. So I changed the offer entirely. So the offer on that VSL was, hey, just book a call and let's see if this is a good fit, right? Whereas now there's no opt-in and the offer is book a call. If you're a good fit, I'm going to demo this for you so you can see what it can actually do for you at no charge. And that's what's hitting. So for me, knowing that my market is hyper aware, knowing that they are trying to piece together some solutions, I spoke specifically to that. And I did have a couple of people who opted in and booked a call. And when I was chatting with them, the number one thing that they wanted to see was, well, what do the creatives look like? What do the
Mm.
creatives look like? What are the like? It just kept coming up over and over and over again. And like any good marketer, you learn and you adapt your messaging and say, this is what the market really wants. Fix it. And so I changed the strategy entirely. And I said, you know what? Let's do a free demo, right? Applied specifically to their agency, super high value, right? So it's not just a generic, like, here's what it looks like. The main objection that people have right now is they don't believe AI can produce world-class images. They don't believe that it can outproduce what their designer can do, and it absolutely can. Now you got to design it the right way. You got to prompt it the right way, and that's what we do. And then not only that, because you can do that with your own tools, like you can come up with your own prompts and go to any image, high quality image AI tool, but it's still not systemized. It's still not automated. It's still not an all-in-one solution that brings you fresh new creative automatically with ready to deploy ads at the push of a button directly integrated with your Meta Ads Manager, all of your client accounts. That's what we provide is that end-to-end solution. But that number one objection was, what do they look like? 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 They all believed that a system could be built. And that was the mistake that I made. I was trying to sell the system over like the image quality. And they all wanted to know, well, what do these ads actually look like? Because if they look like crap, then I'm not going to use it. So it makes sense. And so that's what we started to lead with.
Yeah, I think that that's an interesting point because like right now, I mean, I personally have several clients who are trying to sell AI offers.
Yeah.
And it was really super sexy whenever whenever AI first came out and it was kind of like the wild, wild west, which it still is. It's just very interesting to see like your iterations of your AI offer because like this is like you and I were talking about this like several iterations down because I think people are like, well, the AI market is saturated. That's not technically true. I love how you just walked us through like here's what I did, here's what I tested, and here's what I found out by actually talking to people because I think that's the part that a lot of people skip is actually talking to the people who said no and figuring out why they said no.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that I want to talk about. AI is absolutely not dead. However, it's an expectation now. So leading with AI doesn't really do you any justice. In fact, if you're a service provider and you're incorporating AI in your business, which everybody should, if you're a service provider and you think leading with AI is a value add, it absolutely is not. Make the assumption that everyone assumes that whatever solution you're providing now has AI baked into it. Okay. When you start to lead with AI as a solution, here's what I found. It immediately devalues our service because they think we're just like another $30 a month AI tool, which we are not. So you actually, I'm not going to say that this is universally applicable because people who sell AI trainings, that's still very, very hot and the whole nine yards. But if you're selling solutions and you're leading with AI, you devalue yourself because people just immediately think cheap and fast. And they think that you're removing any expertise from the equation. Just assume that your prospects know you're going to be using AI, and I wouldn't lead with it. So we don't lead with AI. I don't even know if it's in. I'm going to put my foot in my mouth because we'll check the ad copy here in just a second. I hope that it's not. I don't use AI in my messaging, but it was a very, very clear strategic move based on a lot of these calls that I was having. A lot of these people. So this was happening with my internal organic audience. I was talking about Inspired, and I generated like 10 or 15 hot conversations with people who wanted to check out Inspired and like, yeah, some of the details. And we were, a $97 a month tool back in the day before we completely pivoted and focused on advertising. And so a lot of those conversations were like, oh, I just thought this was like a $30 a month tool. I'm like, no, it's not. So that was some positioning changes that I needed to make. So all right. You want to check out my ads? You want to check out like the strategy in detail?
Yeah, let's take a look at it.
All right, cool. So I'm going to give you guys a behind the scenes look, and you're going to look at this and you're going to say, well, Joel, you didn't spend a whole lot of money on ads. And you're right. I didn't. The two angles that I want you to look at are angle 9 or add 9 and add 8. Okay. Because I tell this to everyone, every single person that runs ads is you do not need to spend a lot of money to get valid signals. Okay. If you have something that the market clearly wants, Facebook is going to let you know like as soon as possible. It's in their benefit to find those signals for you because if they give you positive signals and a lot of positive signals, you're going to keep spending more money on that. But if you don't get those initial signals, because it's going to feed it to the lowest hanging fruit right away and try and get those signals right away, if you don't find those signals, then you're going to be burning through ad spend. And so these are my two winners right now, ad number 9 and ad number 8. I've only spent $220 on them total. And we are getting applications for about 36 bucks a piece for both of these. This one generated 2 appointments. This one only generated 1. One did follow up and book an appointment. So this is actually 2. Regardless, I would pay for these costs all day, every day. All right. And they were good leads. They were good quality leads. So keeping that in mind, I tested a lot of other stuff that didn't work. So it's not like this is the first test. This is the test that won. Okay. Because all my other tests were not producing anywhere nearly these results right here. And so it does take time. It takes iterations. And so as I started to whittle it down, where I went initial VSL, learn what my solution is, then book a call. And I realized that wasn't working. I said, you know what? I need to eat my own dog food. I need to just go straight power offer. And most importantly, find that offer that people actually want. And I know what the offer is that they want right now is they want a free, demo for their accounts. I have to be careful with that language of free demo because I'm not giving them an account. I'm doing work behind the scenes and I'm setting it up so they can see what it looks like. But I'm not like giving them a free login because that would immediately devalue our system. And also they wouldn't even be able to use it because we custom build every single one. So I frame it as a free demo of where I can show them what it looks like for their clients. And I did that with a couple of leads and they're blown away by it and they loved it. So I know that process is going to work. All right. So that was strategy. Now, like, what was this dead, simple, stupid ad type that just works really, really well? So this is what Laurel and I were talking about before we hopped on our chat here today. And it's dead simple text-based ads that people cannot ignore. Okay. So I want to showcase this one right here. The other creative is the exact same. So the number one thing that I want to make sure that happens with all of my ads is I want the right people to see it. Okay. I want the right people to identify that, hey, this ad is potentially for me. And so this simple creative of calling out my ideal avatar just works like almost 100 times out of 100, at least getting in front of the right people. You still need the right messaging. You still need the right offer. But I went back to my roots and I said, okay, I'm just going to put this dead simple, blue image calling out my ideal target avatar. So I know Facebook will go find those people. And I'm getting B2B leads. I'm getting agency leads that are booking calls with me, that are filling out their applications. And this is like strategy number 1 of really where I try to start almost every single time. How do I call out my ideal avatar? I think Frank Kern calls this the dog whistle. Laurel, did you call that out the other day? Okay.
Yeah, I learned it from somewhere and it was probably Frank.
Yeah. So I don't exactly know why he calls it the dog whistle, but it's basically just taking that shot across the bow and saying, here's what I'm looking for, right? If you are this person, keep reading.
So you want me to explain it how I
go ahead.
how I explain the whole dog whistle? Because I think it'll be super helpful. So I always tell my students, pretend that I'm taking all of you guys to Disneyland, right? And let's say you guys are all in Lean on Laurel and everyone starts, we all get excited. Everyone starts out the gate. Some people go to Pirates of the Caribbean. Some people go to Space Mountain. Everyone is just running everywhere, right? And then I holler, hey, Lean on Laurel students, wait. All of my Lean on Laurel students are going to turn around and come towards me. Everyone else is just going to keep walking. Of course, there's going to be some looky-loos who will turn around but that's the example of a dog whistle is you want it to be, because I could have said, hey, wait, you forgot your VIP passes. Everyone and their brother would have turned around, right? But if I say, hey, lean on Laurel students, only the people who know what that is are going to turn around and come running. And so that's kind of like my representation of how I look at the dog whistle concept.
Yeah. Yeah. So a dog whistle will only, now I get it, right? So dog whistle is inaudible for humans and probably many other animals. So you call it and only dogs are going to respond to it. So that makes total sense. So that's what I'm doing here, right? I want meta ads agency owners, right? And it's funny, Jason Nybeck, he runs a meta ads agency, or maybe it's a large like Facebook ads like coaching program. So it's funny that like, guess who's responding to this? Guess who's replying, you know? So anyway, that's the first step. It's like dead simple, ideal audience callouts. And there is also something very powerful. We learned this over the years of running my own ads and running agency ads. We ran this, hey, we need you type of angle. Like there's something attractive about that. Meaning like, hey, I've got something for you. It's like, hey, we need help. Or we need this type of person. And it works incredibly well. There's some sort of psychological trigger that draws people into this, right? Grabs their attention and draws them into, reading more.
You can't help but, like, if I'm an ad agency, like, I can't help but not read what you're gonna say. Like, it's human psychology. Like, I'm not gonna just scroll past this. Like, even whether or not I need something, I'm gonna read it just because out of curiosity.
Yeah, so this framework works incredibly well from a psychological standpoint. So now I call these mini sales page ads or power offer ads where I really want my core offer right in here. So I lead this, number one, and I tested a couple iterations where I have free setup and demo right in the headline right here. And I'll be honest, I haven't tested many different copy variations. So this is just the first iteration. It's working fine, right? Free setup and demo. Meta ads agency owners, if I gave you 10 new clients tomorrow, could you handle it or would it break you? Now, why do you think that is resonating so well with my target audience? What do you think, Laurel?
Yeah, because most of them are drowning in fulfillment right now.
And also, it's a challenge, right? It's like, hey, if I gave you 10 clients tomorrow, could you or could you not handle it? Or would it break you? So it is a challenging statement, but also sets the intention of like, oh, what if I did take on 10 clients in a day? Like, what would that look like? Now I'm not promising them client acquisition, but it sets the stage of, wow, I couldn't do that unless I had a proven, repeatable system that allowed me to do that. And so that was the whole angle that I wanted to take there. So could you handle it or would it break you? So I went down and told a little bit of a story. So I'll just read it out loud. When I scaled my ads agency to $220K per month, the biggest bottleneck wasn't strategy or media buying, it was creative production and workflow at scale. We couldn't produce enough volume across all of our client accounts without hiring more people, and that was a huge headache that held us back from bringing on more clients, so I built the solution. We now handle creative production for meta ads agencies at any scale for as many clients as you have. Ready to deploy ads delivered directly to you based on your client's style and brand. You never need to log into Ads Manager. Your clients never know we exist. You're no designers to manage. No downloading and re-uploading assets into Ads Manager. And most importantly, no extra headcount. If you manage meta ads for your clients and looking for a trusted system that manages all aspects of your ads to make your life easier, I'm setting this up for a couple agencies this month at no charge so you can see it in action. Interested? Click the link below and schedule a quick call to make sure it's a good fit for your agency. Then I'll build it out for you so you can see it in action. If you're managing more than 3 clients and it takes more than 15 minutes per week to manage your client campaigns, you can't scale without this. Click the link to learn more. Okay, so that is a power offer. Like that is a direct offer, direct promise of speaking to exactly what I know this market truly wants. Now, did I get it right out the gate? No, I didn't. I had to change my offer entirely, right? My offer used to be click here to watch a demo, get sold on the demo, and then book a call. And that was incredibly expensive and incredibly inefficient, even after all sorts of follow-up. But this speaks to all of their core pains. All of their core pains. They never know that we exist. Their clients are happy. They never need to log into Ads Manager, no designers to manage, and no downloading and re-uploading assets into Ads Manager. So this is working incredibly well. And, it just takes iteration. It takes speaking to your market. It takes understanding what their core desires are, understanding what your competition is. My competition is all sorts of AI software. But what they don't have yet is an end-to-end solution that's fully packaged, ready to deploy ads at the push of a button automatically. So anyway, this is what's working really, really well for us. Now, I'll tell you right out of the gate, I couldn't scale this to $500 a day. It would break, you know. I tell this to everybody. These bottom of funnel style ads, they are not meant to be infinitely scalable. They are meant to tell you, are you on the right track? Are you getting the lowest hanging fruit of people who are desperate for a solution, so desperate that they're willing to click through and book a call, to fill out an application and book a call to speak with you? And that's all I was looking to validate right now. And so because I'm running my own sales calls and because I'm also doing, working with my development team, I don't have a ton of time for all these calls. So that's why I'm only spending $20 a day across each ad. And it's bringing me applications for $40 right now. And it actually took a couple of days for this to trigger. I wonder if I can break it down by day and you can see like it didn't hit even immediately. Okay, cool. So day 1 was the 25th. I did get an application there. I got an application on day 2, nothing for 2 days, and another one yesterday. This one took a little bit longer to fire because, again, we didn't have any application data coming through, so the pixels still needed to get seasoned. So I let it run for a while. I usually let all my ads run for about $100 before I kill them. So this was $40, and I finally got one application. Then it was 2 more days of nothing. Yesterday I got 2, right? So I gave it time. And it seems like it's picking up momentum. And so that's the name of the game, guys. I wish I could tell you I was the greatest thing since sliced bread and I get it right 100% of the time, but that's not marketing. That's not business. I've got frameworks and I follow my frameworks. And when I do follow my own frameworks, it tends to work out pretty well. When I try to get creative and say, I'm going to do a VSL funnel and try and nurture and educate these people, guess what? I was like pissing away $1,000 because I tried a whole bunch of ads and, the funnel itself just didn't convert. But I learned, I talked to my market, I heard what their objections were, and then I repivoted my offer towards that. And guess what? I'm getting traction again.
And this is a classic strategy, like in my world, I call this a power funnel based off of your power offer going straight to an application. This is something I learned from you years ago.
Yeah.
And I will say this, when people come and tell me, hey, how do I sell my high ticket offer? Hands down, this is the same funnel that I'm still showing them like 7 years later after I learned it from you. And it still works just as good today as it did, 7 years ago when you showed it to me.
Yeah. So I'm running a split test and these page views are off because if you look at my conversion rate on my funnel, you'll notice that they're within my KPIs of what I normally set with my, with my clients and my students. So if we take a look at this, I'm usually looking for like a 7 to 10% conversion rate on the landing page. And so I'm pretty close to that right now. And also my cost per appointment is very affordable. So even if I wasn't at that 7 to 10% conversion rate on filling out an application, I'd still be happy because my cost per application was very, very reasonable. But this is converting 3 applications out of 29 link clicks. So that's about 10%. This one is probably 7 to 8%. So, this one has it's still early, but a lower conversion rate from applications to appointments. One of those is missed because my form was broken when I was making some updates. So whatever. Assume that these are about the same. $62 cost per book call. Like I'll take that all day, every day. And in my stats right here, I relaunched the campaign, so I get a little bit of bot traffic, but that's why these numbers look a lot worse than what the ad numbers look like. And you got to pay attention to that. And look at this. My power offer produced 2 applications from this one. So my power offers are the ones that are working and not some of the other angles. But the landing page style, because I'm sure that people are probably going to want to look to see what that looks like. So I'm testing 2 different versions. One is with my VSL, which I re-recorded for this page. I think it's only like 2 minutes long. And it's very much just repeating exactly what I said in the ad. It's very, very congruent. So this is not my VSL that I gated behind an opt-in. I just re-recorded this. which basically just reiterates everything that I talk about on here. So this is doing right now better. And this is one without the video and just immediately demoing, what it looks like, some sample creatives so they can click through. I probably need to change the format of this because if I look at this, it's kind of, I do say click here to click through to see live samples. I don't think it's very intuitive, but I want to get something live. So this is a longer form, sales page. So I am testing different versions right now, but either way, they're working. So that's part of the process.
That's awesome. I think one of the angles too, Joel, that I think is worth mentioning is there's so many people who create these AI tools, but they don't have the experience that you do as running an agency, right? Like a lot of people like build, and I think that the tools that are being built by people like you are going to work better because you have decades of experience in this marketing. And I think that that could be another strong angle that you can utilize once this one, like once this one burns out, because every angle burns out. Like, I don't think there's any such thing anymore as the everlasting ad, right? Like it's now it's just kind of one of those things that we have to kind of cycle through. And I think that that's something that you're not patting your back enough on, because you are one of the best. I mean, we'll just say this. Like, I think, in my opinion, you're one of the best internet marketers from the last 2 decades. And I think that there is an angle there for you because, like, the best advertiser, I know you're very funny about, like, patting yourself on the back, but I think like an angle of, this is the only agency tool that was built by one of the best agency owners in the past 2 decades. I think that there's something there. Just
Yeah.
saying. Just gonna throw that out.
Well, maybe we'll click this video and I'll run it as an ad because that was an awesome testimonial. Yeah. Well, I really wanted to share some behind the scenes data with you guys. I think that's the best way that you guys learn. I also want you guys to, if you're just getting started, I want you to realize, like, hey, we're not perfect. We all go through testing. And in fact, the ones who succeed the most, they just test the most, right? And they don't let it knock them down. You talk to any big name internet marketer, they'll say something very, very similar. I think we keep mentioning Frank Kern a lot. And it's funny because I don't really follow Kern. But a lot of what he said has stuck with me over the years. He goes, man, and I'm paraphrasing, but if you guys think that he goes, I fail way more times than I succeed, right? It's just the successes tend to be pretty big, but that's only because I tested so much stuff that didn't work that eventually I found the one that was going to be a home run and was going to hit. And it's so true. It's so true. And I also get a lot of pushback because people think that like the direct application funnels don't work anymore, or straight to book a call. And I'm like, okay, like let me prove that wrong for you right now, because people want to just come up with all these excuses, and I don't think it's necessarily their fault. I think they're being bombarded with all these other influencers and these people who are running ads saying this is dead, this is dead, this is dead, this is dead. You see it enough times, you're going to start to believe it. The reality is that webinars are crushing right now. Direct to book a call funnels are doing just fine.
Mm-hmm.
There's always going to be people who don't want to go through a funnel. They just want to talk to you. So they all serve different people. They all serve different segments. Each funnel is meant to really serve a different type of avatar. That type of avatar who consumes content in that specific format. If you can think in terms of that, then you'll start to realize like, oh, maybe all these things that people are saying, maybe they're just trying to sell me something. And maybe it's not 100% true. Maybe there's a little bit of truth and they are just exaggerating it quite a bit. That's marketing. That's what a lot of marketers do. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but if you can look through life with that lens, then I think you'll start to see things a little bit differently. Right now there's a lot of people saying like, communities are dead, school's dead, or Facebook groups are dead. And I don't know. I mean, there could be truth to that. I've never really gotten Facebook communities or groups to work, but that's a me problem more so than it is, I think, a platform problem. So anyway.
Yeah, I always tell people this, well, before I say that, there's one quote that has always stuck with me, and it was the guy who did the Kind bar. He said this on Shark Tank, and it has always stuck with me. He said, "There's no failure, only feedback."
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that's been kind of like one of the themes that I've taught to my students over the last year, because it's true. Like, the only reason that my ads work is because I put out so many ads that if I put out 100, obvious, and someone said this at an event, and I nodded my head and I was like, that is very true. This is coming from an agency. It's Mike Bontempo. This is his stat from his agency. He said that they only have an 18% success rate when launching ads, meaning out of every 100 ads that they launch, only 18 are going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that is very accurate. Like, because if you take a look at all of the ads that I've ever put out, like over the last 8 years, I've probably put out over 400, and there's probably only about 40 or 50 that have really hit. And so I think a lot of people put out an ad or two and they're like, well, ads don't work, and all of this. And it's like, no, ads work. It's just you're not putting out enough volume to even think, like
Why do
whether
you
or
think
not something works.
why do you think that statistic is true?
I think because people have so many choices now. Like, if you open up Facebook, right? Like, it's a double-edged sword. If you do your dog whistle ad, right? Like your we want marketing agent Facebook ad agencies, right? We need Meta ad agencies. If a person clicks on that ad, Meta is going to be a double-edged sword and going to start showing your competitors' ads to those same people because you just dog whistled them, right? So Meta's like, this person is this. Let me show them 5 other competitors. And so I think that that's why it's taking so many more ad creatives, and because people are over consuming. Like, they're consuming more content than they ever had before. Like, every single year, it's just more and more content that people are just like consuming. And so now it's not, like, the everlasting ad strategy lasted for so long. Like, you could have like this one ad that you could just run and it would just perform and perform and perform. But it's like now Facebook and Meta, they have so many pieces of content now. It's like they're not going to keep showing that same ad over and over and over again, because then they have like all of these other pieces of content. And so I think that's why our ad creators are getting fatigued a lot quicker, is because they have to make room for the new pieces of content that are coming onto the platform every single day. That's kind of like if you read about how they built Andromeda. They're basically built Andromeda to behave like a person consuming content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's another piece that I want to add on to that and dovetail on, because the reason why I asked is it's a lesson that I try to share as often as I possibly can. This comes down from the types of ads that you create. Are you going to be creating sales-driven ads or marketing-driven ads? Okay. Now, what is the difference between a sales-driven ad and a marketing-driven ad? A sales-driven ad is what I talk about with the power offer. Like, it is unmistakable. You know exactly what's going to happen if you click on this ad. You're not trying to pull the wool over their eyes. You have a very clear call to action, a very clear path for helping them solve some sort of problem, and that is with your offer. The reason why those typically will have a higher success rate than 18% is because they are so direct. Now, there's a caveat to that, right? If you look at a typical funnel and a stage of the buyer's journey, a funnel goes through the stages of marketing, right? It usually starts with marketing: attention, interest, desire, action. Well, a sales style ad really comes in at the bottom where it's like, I just need an action from you, right? Here's a clear call to action. And I say it all the time. That ad is not going to be what scales you to the moon, but it is what's going to, give you life support. And it's going to provide cash into your bank account and give you that fast feedback. So those will typically have a higher success rate than 18%. But when you start to expand into a wider audience and a broader market of people who are not necessarily ready to buy right now, well, this is where you get into the marketing field. And now this is where you have to get creative, and you have to figure out all these different angles that are going to be able to capture their attention and pull them through that AIDA stage: attention, interest, desire, action. And that's what Mike's talking about, right? Mike runs a very, very large agency. He has tons of data, and he's extremely smart. And even he says we have an 18% win rate. And the reason is because they're testing all sorts of different hooks. They don't know what's going to win. They're testing, indirect hooks, with direct hooks, with social proof hooks. And like, it now becomes a testing game because you really don't know what is going to win. And you have to keep testing. You have to throw so much stuff out there and find those winners. And when you find the winners, those winners will outperform all those losing tests that you ran. But it takes effort. and it takes that testing, because marketing style ads really do depend on very unique angles, very unique hooks, speaking to pain points, speaking to different desires, speaking to different personas, speaking to different avatars within your market, and that's where it gets confusing. And I see a lot of people make that mistake. I see a lot of people make that mistake is they start either number one, the mistake is they don't test with direct offers first, like, power offer style ads first, and they go straight into like, curiosity based marketing hooks, and they wonder why they're not getting a 10% conversion rate. Well, it's like, well, you have these people who are clicking because you literally have one sentence on your ad that explains nothing about your offer or anything that's relevant, and you're just creating curiosity clicks. And so there's no intent there. There's very, very little intent. And so, that's the type of stuff you do when you're ready to scale. And when you have a very strong sales page that converts that attention at scale. And like there's just stages to this game. There's stages to the game. And I hope everybody realizes that. That's the biggest lesson I want to share with as many people as possible.
So I will chime into that because this was one of the biggest ahas I had with my own marketing. And I'm so blessed that I found you early on whenever I was building out my ads ecosystem. Because obviously I came from television where, it's just you put out the message and over time people convert. The one thing that accelerated the process for my own clients was actually learning your power offer framework. And here's why, because I think people think that, well, Laurel only does, this ecosystem branding style. That's actually not true. The thing that was the game changer in my entire business was learning. I never forget it. I was listening to an episode of your podcast and it was a explanation of what is the difference between a marketing funnel and a sales funnel, right? And you explained that most webinar funnels are built for marketing. They're built for that long term. What I build are mini webinars that are built to be sales funnels. And that was the thing that really flipped the way that I started building out my ads ecosystem. I'm like, instead of building it out from a marketing message standpoint, what if I just basically built all of the power offers within my framework first, then turn that into problem-solving video content? And so that's literally the switch that I made very early on when I started my ads ecosystem, was actually based off of the demand triggers that you talk about in your power offer workshop. And so that's why I think you and I strategies work so well together, because it's not based on, I want everyone to watch this video. It's, I only want this one type of person to watch this video. And so I just wanted to share with everyone there, because I love giving you credit in that aspect, because I think I was able to make as much money as I did in my business utilizing my strategy because you helped me understand that one reframe very early on, because I don't think people understand that there is a difference between a marketing funnel and a sales funnel. And then people wonder why, well, I've got all these webinar registrations. Why am I not making sales? And so I just had to give credit where credit is due, because I don't think you get enough credit for explaining that to the marketing world.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's so critical. It's so critical. I came from the webinar world. I came from just doing webinars all day, every day for clients, for myself. And that was the big aha moment that I had. I was running my own webinar funnel, trying to generate leads for my agency. And my cost per appointment was very, very high. It was like $450. And I'm like, man, I just don't get it. I don't understand why my cost is so high. And then I looked at it. It's like, well, if I look at the marketing cycle that I'm in, I was leading with trying to educate people on why they needed a webinar funnel. And that was what my entire webinar was about. And at the end, I made them an offer. Hey, go book a call. Now, we were profitable, but the reality was, and I missed this totally, was that how many webinar softwares are out there? Like that's my low hanging fruit. There's a lot of webinar software. This was back in 2015. There's still a lot of webinar softwares out there for marketers. EverWebinar, Stealth Seminar was big back then, and GoToWebinar. And so there was a huge market of people who already knew they wanted a webinar. So I changed everything. I said, I'm just going to make that offer. Like, I'm going to go after those people. I'm going to make an offer to the people who already know they want a webinar, but they're really freaking hard to build, and they just want some help. And that's when everything changed for me. Like, wow, these are two completely different funnels. These are two completely different goals and two completely different intentions. Now, I will still say I'm still a huge advocate as a webinar being one of the best brand builders for you because you build your list quickly. You sell a mid-ticket offer, $1,000, $2,000 straight from the webinar, even 3,000. You recoup that ad spend profitably, and you're building your list. The most money I ever made in business was between 2019, and I'm talking profit, 2019 and 2021, and my engine was a webinar funnel on the front end and a mini webinar funnel on the back end for all of my unconverted leads, sending them to go book a call. My webinar funnel on the front end sold a $2,000 product automatically. If they didn't buy, I said, hey, you want me to just build this out for you? And these people were preconditioned, like pre-sold. They wanted it. They just didn't want to do a self-study course. I captured that low-hanging fruit and it blew up our business and our profit substantially. And like all great marketers, I just shut it down because I'm like, oh, this isn't working. But oh man, it was clear as day, clear as day. And so I am rebuilding that right now for Inspired and some other projects that I'm working on because it just works so well. Like you really do need a list, and it's the best way, but they're hard. They're really hard. So like that's the caveat. It's the golden goose because the barrier to entry is very high, and even if you work with someone like me to map out your webinar, I can't guarantee you it's absolutely going to work because webinars are really, really challenging to get right at scale. But when they do, my goodness, there is nothing better. There's nothing better. Ads are so much easier to run with webinars because, low ticket offers, ads fatigue very, very quickly. You got to constantly refresh creatives. Webinar registration funnels, you can have them running a lot longer because it's just a free opt-in, right? It's low barrier to entry. So it's a lower ads management play, and typically a higher lever to pull from any business standpoint. So, and I always put the caveat, it's never a one size fits all. Like I'm never here to prescribe everybody should be doing a webinar funnel. I'm never here to prescribe everybody should be doing a book a call funnel or a low ticket funnel. It's like different strokes for different folks. It all depends on the right situation, what your goals are.
It has to be the sequence, and that's, that's the other aha moment that I had from this, that entire sales conversation that you had on that podcast episode. Because like the way that I think of it is like the first thing is like conversations, fastest path to cash, add to application, book a call funnel first, validate the offer, right? Then you can go in once you have the volume of the book calls, go in and do the mini webinar, right? Because that's going to add the friction that you actually need. And then liquidation is the last step. And I think people try to do the top two, like they try liquidation first, or they try, the to go for quality. But at the end of the day, one of the things I learned from you is you have to go for volume first, because without volume, you can't validate an offer. So if you're listening to this right now and you're wondering, should I do a low ticket offer funnel? Should I do a webinar or VSL funnel? Should I do, straight to book a call? It's like, it's all about the sequence. When you need volume, you have to go for that book a call. Then once you need friction, that's when you add in your mini webinar. And then when you're like, okay, cool, I've got enough volume into this, how do I liquidate my ad spend? Then you go for the low ticket offer. That, in my opinion, that is the sequence that will keep the most cash flow in your pocket and keep you from going broke too soon.
Yeah, it's the profitable testing sequence, because take my lessons learned with Inspired and trying to get book calls. I gave myself too much credit and said, I'm going to figure out this VSL thing. I think this is the right path to go. And it took a while to build it out. Like even me with AI tools and knowing what I know about VSLs, I'm like, okay, this is the path. And I got to record it. And I just set the opt-in page up and my email sequence. And like, I've spent probably 2 full weeks on that, part-time while I'm juggling all of these other things. And it didn't work, didn't work. It was very, very expensive. I'm like, if I had just followed my own process to start, I would have gotten this data so much faster. And lesson learned, it is what it is, but learn from us. Don't make those same mistakes.
Yeah. Like, you know how many VSLs I've written because I like the dopamine hit of the idea of launching a VSL? I have yet to launch a VSL funnel, even though I have written like thousands of them, like for my clients, and I've written probably over a dozen for myself. And I just look at my ads manager. I'm like, just keep doing the thing that works.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Awesome. Anything else, Laurel?
No, I think today I enjoyed the conversation because it's always interesting to hear the process of having to switch messaging, because I think so many people look at that as a failure, and it's not. Like you just have to look at it as this is data and know exactly, what buttons to push and what data to actually look like to course correct. And I think you did a really great job of explaining like how you course corrected I hate to say a failed messaging. It wasn't failed messaging. It just didn't hit as good as the
Yeah.
one that you have now.
You can say it's failed messaging. I'd say it's failed messaging for sure. It's data that I had to learn from. Um, and ultimately I just had to strip it all down. I had to strip it all down. I had to come up with a new offer. I want people to understand that. My offer changed. Where my offer beforehand with my VSL was, hey, just book a call, right? And there's no core value proposition there. With the conversations that I was having, I knew what the objections were, and so I changed it entirely, reduced and eliminated all of the friction, and just put it right in front and say, okay, great. If you want a system built for you, click here to book a call. If it makes sense, I'll demo this out for 2 of your clients so you can see what it looks like in action before you pay us a dime. And it's working. So that's the game. That's business.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Laurel, always appreciate our chats. Thanks for tuning into our chat here today, everybody. And Laurel, where are they going to find you? Let's drop some links for you.
Yeah, so my two favorite places are Instagram and YouTube. So, and I'm at the Laurel Show at both.
Awesome. Cool. So you're already watching this on my YouTube channel. Hopefully, you can head to joelirway.com. Or if you want to automate your ads and you are sick of going through that iterative process of logging into Canva, logging into ChatGPT or Claude, getting the copy written, going through the iterative process, working with a designer, going back and forth, and you want ads launched for you within 3 minutes a day, having 30 new iterations, 30 new ads ready to deploy at the push of a button without you needing to log into Ads Manager, head to getinspired.app and follow the instructions there, and let's book a call and see if it makes sense. All right. Thanks, Laurel, and we will see everybody on the next episode.